The state of the world. What a state the world is in. So I was just using a computer program. Yet again, some clown has decided to add an animation when I'm doing something that's completely unnecessary. It's because they thought it was cool. I can picture it now. The developers sitting there going, oh yeah, I've made this really cool thing. And the manager goes, yeah, that's really cool. Everyone's going to love that. Yeah. And they've just made it mandatory. Can't get rid of it. These morons have been let loose. And this is precisely the problem with liberalism. These clowns are unprofessional, immature, impulsive, and they're in control of things they have no business being in control of. This is the problem with abandoning the regularity and the order and the discipline that we used to have in our world. Now, who's done this? Yeah, you might say, oh well, it's a little thing, it's a small thing. It is everywhere and in everything. Nothing works properly anymore. Nothing in the world works properly. Governments don't work properly. Militaries don't work properly. Shops, businesses, local councils, it's all a mess. It's all a mess. It's a joke. Because people who have no business being in positions of authority and decision making are in positions of authority and decision making. And I will point the finger squarely, essentially, if we're going to simplify it, at, shall we call it, the banks. Our country, that is the United Kingdom and many other countries too, are completely at the mercy of international financiers, big banks which are in private hands. If you want to figure out exactly which part of the population's hands they're in, go look it up. It's not a secret. And the problem is that those people are only exploiters. They lend money so that they can make money. They never invest their time and effort into building anything. All they'll ever do is back other people to do work for them. Not really for them, but whatever it is. The problem is that their heart and soul is not in the end product. Ever. All they are ever worried about is money. They don't have any pride in a job well done. They have no interest in that whatsoever. And they would tell you this. That's the truth. They would tell you this. It would be absurd for them to have such an interest. And that is precisely why they must never ever be in charge of something as important and sensitive as the controls of a country. And the problem is that they've gotten themselves into that position, and because they don't care, the result is what you see around you. It's disastrous. Systems which are put in place, have been put in place by people who did care, are just being abandoned. Oh, well, why do we do this? Oh, right, let's get rid of it. It's everywhere. Moreover, these people are interested in having control. The problem is they haven't earned it. They don't know how to run the thing that they've got control of. Only the people whose hearts and souls and spirits and minds are invested in the thing have any business being in control of it. As a result, nothing works and things are degrading hand over fist. And these banking guys will just sit there and go, well, we don't care. They'll watch the thing burn. They've no interest. They don't care. They're just exploiters. That's all they can ever be. You know, with taking the heat out of the accusation, it's just a simple fact. People who lend money for profit can do nothing but exploit. It's just what the practice is. They lend money if they deem it will yield a profit. But the problem is, those people are now in control of very sensitive things. Well, if they don't care about anything at all, aside from profit, and this isn't just a case of, oh, big business. No, this is specifically moneylenders. Alright? The financial institutions of this world and of our countries. Alright? Private and public. Although, arguably, the public ones are just in private hands anyway. So, anyway, that's a different topic. But those who are in charge of those things have no business being in charge of something like a country's government. You might say, well, they don't have control of the government. Of course they do. Where do you think governments get their money from? Who manages their money? Who lends the political parties money to get themselves elected? What, you think the money just comes from thin air? This is the problem that people throughout history have warned about. The moneylenders. If they get in charge, they'll ruin any nation that they get into the driving seat of. And that's what's happening to our countries. It's what's happening to all the systems everywhere. Now, if you really want to get deeper about it, a lot of the people who are in those positions are also, they do have a sideline in making sure that their particular branch of humanity has its own interests addressed specifically, at the detriment, if necessary, to anyone else. Again, you'll have to do your own research to figure out what I'm talking about. If you've got half a brain, you'll figure it out very quickly, if you don't know it already. If you can't be bothered to figure it out, do something else, because you're a waste of time. It doesn't take much intellect, really, to figure it out, but it also takes the will to figure it out. And if you have neither, then you're worthless, so just go and do something else. But again, these people, this is the so you could argue that, you know, a financial institution itself, or those who are running it just to make money, you could argue that's an amoral, perhaps, endeavour. Not particularly nefarious or selfish in terms of, you know, it being having an agenda over and above what it is, which is just the making of money. But secondary to that is that the particular branch of humanity which have an overarching control over the financial systems of our nations and the world have also got their own agenda. Again, you'll have to look into this yourself. It's not hard to see. But those people must never, ever be in charge of other people's countries. Never. But that's what's happened. And so the worst case scenario that all of the people who have warned people throughout history about with regard to these money lending peoples has occurred. And the problem is they have to do everything they do in secret. They'll try and be upfront about it, but that would be absolutely their undoing. So they can't be upfront about it. All they can do is try to distract people in perpetuity, but they can't distract people in perpetuity. And this has always been the problem with this particular branch of humanity. They always get found out, and they get a lot of trouble because of it. And this is the point we're at now in our world and in our nations. These people are... there is a massive awareness building of exactly what's been going on. And these guys are just going, no, we'll just carry on with the plan. The plan is keep everyone distracted. But it's just going to fall apart. They're hoping that they can try and force some global change which will make everyone forget their countries. But that won't happen. So these people are in a bit of a pickle, really. And they know it. That to think that they haven't sat down and observed this issue is absurd. Of course they have. You have to put yourself in their shoes to understand what's going on, and then it all makes perfect sense. And that's where it gets sticky and rather dangerous, because these people have a lot of influence. That's how they stay, that's how they survive. And they can bring that influence to bear in very, very harmful ways. It's like if a person had someone, they just discovered that someone had been riding them their whole lives, and they were like, "Get off of me." And that person's like, "If you try and throw me off, I'll strangle you." And they could. And that's the problem that we have. So, or rather they would say, or perhaps they would say, well, I will make other people attack you on my behalf. And that's exactly how they operate. So you have to have courage to get rid of this problem. And you have to have courage as a nation, really. And this is why nationalism is the antidote to globalism, and globalism is the essential outcome that these people are pushing for, because they know that if nationalism in countries takes hold, they are toast. All of the things, or the rot that they've built, shall I say built or employed, will just be exposed, and anything that they have will just be destroyed and torn away from them, and they know it. But that's no one's problem but their own, and they know that too. It's horrific. It's really a horrific situation. And on one hand you have some sympathy, but on the other hand you have none. And that's always been the problem. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know exactly what I'm referring to. So I started off saying, well, I used a bit of software and it wasn't doing what I wanted because it's some nitwit has decided to redesign it the way that he thinks is fun. Well, that was never the way things were produced, ever. Things are produced for the user to have control of. Well, now you've got nitwits just doing what they want. Oh, that looks great, that's cool. And then everyone else is like, get your nonsense out of my face. It's exactly the same as if someone else had access to your toolbox, and you came and you picked up your spanner and you were like, who spray painted this pink? And there's some guy going, ah, yeah, it looks great pink. And you're like, you ever touch my tools again and it won't be a very good thing. But that you wouldn't have someone messing around with your tools. And this is what's happened nowadays. Everything's all over the place. You've got morons running around going, yeah, we can do what we want, yeah. But the problem is that the discipline, the regulation, the standards that we used to have were there for a reason. Anyone will tell you now in the United Kingdom that the products that you see on the shelves are probably 50 to 70% maximum of the quality that they used to be. Anything from plastics to metals to fruit and veg, it's all the quality has just fallen off the edge of the chart. Why? Because of this problem. People who don't have any business being in positions of decision making on behalf of others are in positions of decision making. So it's a combination of idiots and people who don't care at all and who are nefarious. This is the problem. So we need, again, if you have a strong national sentiment, you can start putting in place regulations. I mean, do I even need to go down the immigration road with regard to the United Kingdom? It's all part of the same problem. Morons who shouldn't be in positions of decision making and nefarious people who don't care and actually have their own agenda. I mean, come on. That's what's happened to the world, and we need to wake up and put it right. And it's going to take probably quite a small portion of society in each nation to actually start putting it right. Simple. I mean, it's just going to be a bit of a job, but it's doable. Anyway, don't know what else to say.